time of this show, I had the opportunity to have lunch with Paul Strand, who was also represented by the gallery. And he was a very kind, very elegant older man, and in the most polite and gentle way, after looking at the pictures, told me that higher emotions couldn't be communicated in color. And I remember thinking, what would Kandinsky say about that? So as I mentioned, I saw this as a visual diary and photographed every meal I ate, beds I slept in, art on walls that I would encounter. I wanted to use this as a framework for exploring American culture. I also had a structural question in mind, which is, what does natural look like? How can I make a picture that contains less of the artifice of visual convention? And I attempted this by what I guess now we would call taking a screenshot, as you take a screenshot of your computer, taking a screenshot of my field of vision at random moments during a day, just to see what I'm looking at and how that's organized in my field of vision without composition, just looking at something. So here I am sitting in the back of a taxi cab in New York. Am I supposed to turn my mind off when I'm in a taxi cab or when I'm in an elevator, or can I take a picture? Now, I told you the Paul Strand story. This was not an uncommon reaction. Art photography at the time simply was not supposed to be in color. Everything else was in color. All snapshots were. In fact, if you wanted black and white snapshots, you couldn't do it. You had to go to a custom lab. You just went to your corner drugstore, the results would be color. Movies were in color. Television was in color. Magazines. The only holdouts to black and white were newspapers, largely for financial more than aesthetic reasons, and art photography. But since these were meant to be snapshots, they naturally had to be in color. And I think the time was simply right for this to be explored, because a number of people at just around the same time, Bill Eggleston, Bill Christenberry, Joe Meyerowitz, all were exploring these issues and devoting their attention to solving the problems of color. What if had been some great photographers who had tried color. Edward Weston shot a few sheets of color film. A number of great photographers did. But what was happening at this time is that a number of us were thinking, what if I totally devote myself to color and totally devote myself to figuring it out? And it was fascinating because color adds transparency. That if I want someone to look through the photograph as though they were looking at the world, if I want to buy into that illusion, in just the simplest terms, the world is in color. It adds cultural information, the palette of a culture, the palette of an age. I continued actually after the show at Light Gallery. I continued for maybe another half year on this project. But I look back at that time and see that a lot of the contentious territory that I pursued over the next maybe 10 years was really staked out during that year. I wanted to continue this project, but as I was working on it, I became less interested in these images as snapshots, these prints as snapshots, and wanted to enlarge them, and found that the film at the time, Curatorial, was so grainy that it would not enlarge well. And so I got the idea that I needed a larger negative, and so got myself a Crown Graphic kind of camera Luigi used, thinking I would take 4x5 negatives and hand hold it and really just continue the same project. But found, I'm doing things like this, there was no reason to hand hold it, so I put it on a tripod, and found to my surprise, because I'd really never worked on a tripod much, and had certainly never used a larger format camera looking at the ground glass, that I loved the process and loved looking at the ground glass. And this led to a turn in my work and a new phase. This is the beginning of a project called Commonplaces. I liked the conscious attention that was focused by working with it on a tripod and looking at ground glass. It made every decision stand out, and it began a process of a new kind of questioning and exploration of how an image is put together for me. But I also found that, well, like this picture you can see has its roots in American surfaces. I found, though, that I could do something different, and that I could begin to rely on the camera's descriptive ability. If I saw something interesting, I didn't have to walk up to it. I could allow it to be small in the picture because I knew it was going to be described with great clarity.